this is live
Yes.
delivering.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I just
okay.
started it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
hello, everyone.
I will.
Welcome to our weekly discussion series that's hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center in collaboration with U of M Detroit Center, Unique Voices in Films, and CMN TV. I'm your host, Nemu, and our guest today is Professor Etsuko Katsumata.
Yes.
Welcome. It's
Nice to
great
see
to have you
you.
from
Thank
Japan.
you. Yes, now in midnight in Japan time.
Thank you
Yes.
for staying up
Yeah,
for us.
yeah, yeah. I'm very sorry to have some problem to enter this room, but I
Yes,
now, yeah,
different
okay,
timing for
five,
sure.
yeah.
So Professor
Mhm.
Etsuko received her
Yeah,
PhD in Hebrew literature from the
yeah,
Hebrew University of
yes,
Jerusalem in
yeah,
Israel.
yes.
She is a professor at School of Theology at Doshisha University in Japan, and she attained her master's at the Tokyo University in Japan, her master's in religious studies, I believe. Correct? Yes.
Yes.
So I have a lot of questions to ask you because I'm very curious. We have a mutual friend, Roy
Hmm.
Gaspard,
Yeah.
who introduced me to you because he said, I know a professor in Japan who studied Aramaic, and
Hmm.
she has all this history in Judaism. And we really I wanted to meet you, but as well as wanted our audience to learn some things
Hmm.
from you.
Hmm.
And this is how we met. But before we get into your area of expertise, tell us about your background, where you were born, and how
Hmm.
you would describe your culture and upbringing.
Hmm. Okay. Can you share my PowerPoint or we no?
No, no, it is
Okay.
difficult. But you know what? We plan to one day have you as a
Uh-huh.
speaker, in which
Uh-huh.
case you would be able to share your PowerPoint. So we're looking
Okay.
forward to that.
Okay. So I have some pictures in like this. So I use this paper for my
Okay, I can see that.
presentation probably. Yeah.
Okay,
So
good. I can see that.
I was born in Yamaguchi Prefecture in Japan. That is a very local place. The west part of Japan, or not here. Yes, the surrounded three direction in three direction by sea, very small town. And I studied there, grew up there. And when I entered the university, I went up to Tokyo, and there I major in religious studies. My family is a Christian home, but when I am in teenager, I didn't feel good at the church and have a question, many questions. So I kept a kind of distance towards Christianity. But when I studied in university, I felt that I have to learn about religion in general. So I chose the religious studies in university. Then I found that the Jewish interpretation of the Bible in English and the way of their thinking is very surprising one. They can, in Jewish study and Jewish interpretation of the Bible is very free, and we can ask anything what we think about the Bible, and it was very attracted me. So I wish to study much more deeply about the Jewish interpretation of the Bible. So I. I wanted to run in the center of the Jewish studies, that is Jerusalem. So after the university, I choose to study abroad in Israel. Okay.
What was that process like if you studied in Israel? So
Mhm.
how were you fluent in English? How were you able to study in a different country?
Mhm.
And was that the best program that there was available for it? Is that why you studied there in Israel?
I entered in Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and there they prepared the Hebrew class first of all, and so I studied first of all modern Hebrew, and then I found Professor Shin An. He is the best professor in this area, interpretation of the Bible. Of Jewish ways, that called Midrash, and I asked him to accept me as a master student. And after that PhD student in Hebrew University, then I studied modern interpretation of the Bible in. Uh, I started to learn, study Hebrew interpretation of the Bible and Talmud and many kinds of Jewish literature.
But what language were you studying all this in?
At that time, Hebrew language and Aramaic to read Talmud and Midrash, and
Well,
more.
where did you originally study these languages?
Originally, I studied in Tokyo University in Tokyo, but I studied just biblical Hebrew. Then in Hebrew University, I studied modern Hebrew, and along with modern Hebrew, we learned about Aramaic in Hebrew letters. You see, Aramaic language in Hebrew letters in Hebrew University, and uh, in the Bible, there is a part of Aramaic portion you see in Daniel, book of Daniel, and some part of prophet. So in Hebrew University, Aramaic is used for read Daniel and Midrash, and also we found a little bit Neo Aramaic in Talmud and Midrash. So we learn also this kinds of language in Hebrew University. Do
And
you
what
understand?
was your
Yeah.
experience like reading the Bible in the
Mm-hmm.
Aramaic language?
Mm-hmm.
Most people nowadays, so
Mm-hmm.
even like people in the Middle East, as an example, will read it either in Arabic, or the people that live here in English.
Mm-hmm.
Very few, and it's getting to be fewer people that are able to read in the Aramaic language.
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel for you? And what would you say? How does it make a difference in reading it in that language, in the
Yeah.
Aramaic language?
Because most of the part of Hebrew Bible is Hebrew, but we find the Aramaic part according to the grammatic characteristics. So I feel it's very library impression. Indeed, I feel people talking this arrived language at that time. So Hebrew portion, we find a kind of narrative and something language. But Aramaic portion, I feel that very speaking and very living. That's the impression of me. I'm sorry, I cannot hear. I'm sorry.
Yes. As
Yeah.
I had mentioned earlier, Roy Gusford, who you met,
Mm-mm,
who is very interested in the Aramaic language, and he met our community when he traveled here, and since then he's
mm-mm,
come regularly to Michigan and
mm-mm,
did conferences with us.
mm-mm,
Um, he introduced you to our community. I was
mm-mm.
wondering if you were familiar about the Chaldean community before you talked to him. I'm just curious.
Uh,
Do you have any
in
idea about our presence?
in United States, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I know by chance my according to my information, just for searching Aramaic in net, And I find that suddenly I find that in Detroit you have a Chaldean community, Assyrian community, and speaking Aramaic still now. So it's very. I know the existence of your community in before. So I'm very interested in the community in Detroit. And on the other hand, Detroit is very famous for us for car industry. So it's very for me interesting connection between car industry and Aramaic, which I run now. So because of the connection, I remembered very well. Yeah.
So you were aware of it, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you study so much, yes. And
Yeah.
you wrote, you published your
Eh,
thesis. It was called
eh,
Priest and
eh,
Priesthood in the
yeah,
Aramaic Bible.
yeah. This is okay. I bring,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And it was published in
Mm.
English?
Yes, yes. When so it is on demand, on demand. So if you order, you can get
It
the
is
book.
available. It's
Yeah,
available
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
purchase, correct?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that and why you chose that topic?
Yeah. I wish to learn about Jewish studies, Midrash, and so on. But my Professor Sing An, recommended me to read Aramaic Bible. That is a translation of Aramaic translation of the Bible. It is for the people who return from Babylonian exile to Jerusalem, and they forgot the Hebrew language already, and they used the Aramaic at that time. So for those people, the Bible is translated into Aramaic. The Aramaic Bible is, of course, a kind of one of the genre in Jewish studies, but in even in Jewish studies, Aramaic Bible doesn't have enough attention because scholars consider the Aramaic Bible is just translation. But so first, I myself thought that Targum, we call it Targum, Aramaic Bible is not so interesting subject. But my professor recommended me to read the Aramaic Bible, so I obeyed his order. But so when I started to study Aramaic Bible, I found many interesting points. It is not only just translation. The Targum, Aramaic Bible has many additional discussion for the biblical verses, and they have very unique point of view. So, but Jewish studies doesn't still don't enough don't pay enough attention to Aramaic Bible. So there's much point to think about. So I chose this subject, and and also priest and priesthood in the rabbinic time, rabbinic age, is also not the main point in Jewish studies, because Jewish studies, their attention is sages and rabbis and their literature. And priest and priesthood are already finished after the destruction of the temple 70 years after the after AD. So both of priest and priesthood and Aramaic Targum, both of them are not paid enough attention in Jewish studies. So I linked together, and indeed I found the future of the Aramaic Bible very connected with the tradition of priest and priesthood. I think it is my new discovery in this area. So I try to continue my work on PhD PhD course and finished my thesis in this way.
And you talk about focusing on the rabbinic age when the
Mm-hmm.
core of Judaism was formulated. You say that the rabbinic literature educates us on how the Jewish people lived, thought, and acted and survived under the different crises they faced. What would you say from your studies? And actually, it's not just from your studies because you lived in Jerusalem. You lived in Israel,
Yes,
so
yes,
you were part of that community for a while. By the way,
yes.
how long were you living there for?
Almost 10 years from 93 at 93 from 93 to from 93 to
To
2003. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So having lived with that community as well as having studied
Mm-hmm.
the Jews, and by the way, this subject is also very interesting for us. So at our museum, which I hope one day you'll be able to visit, we
Mm-hmm.
are our museum is moving to a larger area. And
Mm-hmm.
in that larger building, we are including we have a section right now on the
Mm-hmm.
Judaism during when they were in captivity at
Mm-hmm.
Babylon. We have a small section. We're increasing that section quite a bit, and we're trying to get replicas of the tablets, some of the tablets that were discovered in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
that describe how the Jewish people lived in Babylon
Mm-hmm.
during that time.
Mm-hmm. Ah, really? Mm-hmm.
Discovered in 2015, and they're
Mm-hmm.
currently at the Bible Museum in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to either get replicas or images to include in our new museum. So we too
Mm-hmm.
have an interest in that area. Um, but based on your experience with the Jewish people and your research, what would
Mm-hmm.
you say are the characteristics that have helped the Jews survive through so many trials?
Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Jewish people, even without a nation in physical sense, they continue to discuss about their tradition, especially their Torah, and they created so much many kinds of literature and keep language, their own language, even in the Europe and Middle East, other countries. So for that and by way of discussion and keeping tradition and very put on very bad and education is very important things for them. So such a tradition is very such tradition and such discussion, the spirit of discussion kept them as a Jewish people, even without a nation in physical sense. And I myself, we have I bear two sons in Jerusalem, and oldest son has a very severe disability even now. But Israel society offered us very careful care and rehabilitation system of the education for disability children. That's very helped us, and my son could develop as much as possible in the early stage in Israel society. So I feel that the education is very important even for disability in Jewish society. This is one part of characteristics of Jewish society, and the importance of education to transfer their tradition to next generation is indeed keeps the spirit of Jewish people through their difficult history. That's my opinion, impression.
Yeah. So, yeah, we noticed that even the Jewish groups that come through our museum
Mm-hmm.
have such a profound interest in their and their history, regardless of how it was, whether they were in captivity or the fact that we have a relationship, a history together.
mm,
It, they honor and respect that and really like to study the history, their
mm,
roots
mhm,
to whatever extent.
mhm,
And I had once asked in our discussions, I have discussions of so many people from different parts of the world come and visit us,
mhm,
even like
mhm,
South Africa, the Arab world, people from the Arab
mhm,
community. Many people come and visit. So we often have these conversations, and I once
mhm,
asked a Jewish person,
mhm,
I did notice this about you, that you guys really honor your heritage, and
mhm,
that he said, because one thing we go by is that
mhm,
we don't want to forget. We always have to remember our heritage.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
and they do that through, like you said, education,
mhm,
the schooling that's created to continue that on.
mhm,
Yeah, it's quite impressive too.
mhm,
But you also say that the rabbinic literature gives us a background on early Christianity.
mhm.
So, can you share with us what is the heart of that background?
So Jesus is also one member of the Jewish community. So we can find many parallel words in Rabbinic Judaism and that of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. For example, Jesus says what is very important part of Hebrew Torah is to love their neighbors and to do to do neighbors what you want to do.
Yes.
But
Run to
here, yeah,
others. Yes.
Hillel, the sage, very famous sage is called Hillel, in the same time of Jesus Christ, has the same, almost the same word. Don't do to neighbors, not to what myself don't want. So the level of was very similar, and I think the spirit of Jesus is very common to Jewish sages word. So and we cannot probably we cannot understand the newest of Jesus Christ's word without a comparison of their own world, the historical world in Jewish people. Especially in Mishnah, we find Mishnah. It's a book of many kinds of many kinds of laws in Jewish society. It seems very rigid and very hard. Usually, people say the Jewish society is very difficult one, but we find that they also have a very special care for poor people and and ill people, but they also have a very attention towards these people. So we have to know what the kind of society of Jesus Christ at that time. So for that purpose, the rabbinic Judaism's knowledge is needed. Okay,
Hmm.
did you
Yeah,
understand?
yeah. So there is, of course, there is that connection to the fact that Jesus was a
Mm,
Jew, and uh, somebody recently shared something with me. It's
mm,
not on the questions that I had sent you,
mm,
but I just want to share and see if you're aware of anything like this.
mm,
Um, he said that we are closely related to Iraqi Jews. I was asking him why there was a lot of Chaldeans feel a certain
mm,
connection
mm,
to the Jewish community. I mean, we're all from that region, anyways, so
mhm,
that's a big connection right there. But he said that they are closely related to Iraqi Jews, Georgian Jews, Kurdish Jews, and Mountain Jews. That
mhm,
sometimes when Chaldeans take DNA
mhm,
tests, that it's their it's their first match. Have you
mm,
ever heard of any? I mean, I have not researched this myself, but this is
mm.
a person who's very interested in history. I'm just curious if you've ever heard anything like this, if that's ever
About the
come
DNA.
across. He's saying that when
Mm,
Chaldeans, oftentimes when Chaldeans do a DNA, that the
mhm,
closest they come to
mhm,
their relations are Iraqi Jews, Georgian Jews, Kurdish
mhm,
Jews, and Mountain Jews. Is
mhm,
from his from material he read. I'm just
mhm.
curious if you've ever heard about anything like that.
I, I didn't hear about the DNA itself, but I think not me, but Jewish people and Christian people are very close in their roots. So it happened. Yeah, I think it's really, I can understand the closeness.
It's
Yeah.
not right. It wouldn't be
Mhm,
surprising if that was the case. Okay.
mhm.
Well, what are you currently, so you're currently a professor at Doshisha
So,
University.
yes.
So, yes, so tell us, we have a few minutes left. Just tell us, what else would you like to share with us? And what do you hope that I guess, your quote, by the way, we got a quote that we use for your bio because it's so beautiful. So I feel like you have eh, your studies are so much deeper than just, the teaching aspect. So
Uh,
given your position, what is it that what is your mission? What is your calling? I would
uh,
add.
So I teach now here School of Theology in Japan, Dosha University. Dosha University is a Christian university, so many students and scholars are Christian, and but their way of thinking is very Christian side, and very often they criticize the Jewish people, especially in Jewish in the time of Jesus Christ. But I wish to share the idea that they are the same society and the way of thinking in Jewish way and the way of how to how the power of discussion and to keep tradition and created something even without country. It's the power of Jewish way, and they keep their identity and their culture without country. It is because of their power of discussion and education. I really hope to send transmit. It is my mission to send the importance of discussion and education to Japan world.
Well, I have to say, based on what you just said, I noticed earlier you said that, a lot of Christians, including myself,
Mhm,
we sometimes, as we're growing up, and I think a lot of people sometimes veer away from their religion for
mhm,
various reasons, especially when they're young. But then
mhm,
then you are drawn back into your
mhm,
roots.
mhm,
Something is triggered that makes you realize, that you want to look more into your roots and especially into your religion in a
mhm,
spiritual sense.
mhm.
Um, do you have an advice? We literally have 1 minute left. Do you have any advice for young people who are trying to connect to their religion? I mean, what advice would you give them?
It's very difficult. I cannot say I myself returned to Christianity, my roots exactly, but the religion has anyway power to answer some our question and our trouble. So it's especially in Bible. We can read in many ways, and we can find some answer in biblical verse. So we can. It is very valuable thing to return to Hebrew Bible and New Testament in any way. Then we can find deeper way where do we have to go. Yes.
Right, and like you said, it starts with a discussion. I mean, what we're doing right now is discussing this, learning this, educating ourselves about this, and then how we take it home with us or into our hearts as our personal way.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Etsuko, Professor Etsuko, thank you so much for joining us, for
Thank you
staying
so
up this
much.
early. I hope that you
Yeah,
can join us in Michigan one day, that you could
yeah.
be a part of our museum and part of our events, because I
Really,
feel like
yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
important issues to
yeah.
share with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for invitation.
Thank you.
See
God bless.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody,
bye.
for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye
Thank
bye.
you very